Alright, so I think I'll get started. So, hey everybody, Blood Moon Bobby here. So, as I have been talking about on social media, I will be discussing the Star versus the Forces of Evil AMA today. Oh, I have a real dry mouth. I'm gonna be eating and drinking my breakfast as we discuss it. But before we begin, I figured I'd tell you what's going on because I know I stirred a bit of confusion because it's like, you see me and you see the live chat window and the discussion, so it's just like, what exactly is going on here. So, what's happening is that, you're obviously going to see my face because, I'll be reacting and discussing to Daron Nefcy and her crew's answers. According to the Reddit post, like this is how it's gonna work. What's gonna happen is I actually have the AMA. I have my Reddit app open on my iPad. By the way, if you see me in videos, if you see me looking down a lot and you're wondering why I do that, it's because I'm looking at my iPad to get more information. I know I really need to change that. Um, but yeah, that's why you see me looking down in videos a lot. It's mainly to make sure I'm getting my information correct. And today, this is actually, I believe this is actually the first live stream I've done, at least first legit live stream. I did a test live stream last night where I'm actually using my upgraded computer to live stream. 99% of live streams up until now I've done using my MacBook Pro, my 2012 Retina MacBook Pro. And even though it's great at video editing, when it comes to things like OBS, it could get slow sometimes. So that's why, and I apologize for this. This is why when me and Gabby did that Infinity Train live stream, that was why it was super laggy. But I've upgraded my family computer. If you want to know more information, I've got. You can go look it up on my Instagram page. I have a image where I took a picture of the parts I upgraded, and you could learn more information there. And it's funny because this computer, even with upgrades, it handles Premiere decently, but still not as good as my MacBook Pro. But in terms of OBS, it seems to be handling it much better than my MacBook Pro, which is really kind of weird. So I don't know. I would say the CPU in this computer is maybe slightly, slower than my MacBook Pro, but the video card I put in here, the GT 1030, is much better than the 650M chip that's in that aging MacBook Pro. So, go figure. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, I didn't want to put the AMA in the video here for privacy reasons, just in case people who respond to the AMA don't want them shown in the video. I'll have a link down below in the description if you want to go check out the AMA yourselves, and I highly recommend that. Depending on how rapid the flow of questions comes, I'll probably not respond to every single thing that the crew responds. According to Reddit, the people in the AMA include Daron Nefcy, of course, the creator of Star vs. the Forces of Evil, Adam McArthur, the voice of Marco, Dominic Bisignano. I hope I pronounced his name right. It's funny, I actually met Dominic when I interviewed him at the Gallery Nucleus, and I still have a tough time pronouncing his name. And also director and producer Aaron Hammersley, who you might have seen in direct a lot of the Star vs. Forces of Evil episodes, and I met him as well. So I'm mainly going to be reacting and discussing through the Reddit tweets using my iPad here for privacy reasons. If you want to check out the AMA yourself, and I strongly recommend that you do, please go check it out in the link in the description. So that's where we'll go from here. And please don't be afraid to respond. If you have any questions about my responses, or if you would like to counter argue and say things like, I don't really agree, I think they're coming from this angle and that, please feel free to let me know. Yeah. By the way, I know I said that I'm thinking of building my first computer as my next major project. I might have to put that on hold because I'm thinking maybe I should upgrade my MacBook Pro to at least the 2016 version. Even with the, I mean, I hope I don't get the really terrible keyboard issues, but I definitely need something that's much better than the laptop I currently have, especially since, I want to do a lot more of these OBS live streams, and I can't always come downstairs to, use this computer because, like, my family uses it sometimes, and, my kitchen is nearby, and sometimes, like, my parents will be, like, watching TV, and, you could hear them talking about the shows they watch, and, obviously, there's too many cooks in the kitchen, no pun intended, if that happens, so I don't know. I would like to get something like a much newer MacBook Pro though, because even though I don't really do tech videos anymore, I still like having my foot in both Mac OS and Windows at the same time. I don't want to, my MacBook Pro runs both Windows 10 and the current version of Mac OS, so I like having my foot in both, rather than just saying, oh, Windows is so much better than Mac or vice versa. Apparently, there's already 4 questions being asked, but I want to wait for the crew to respond first before I get into my thoughts. Since the AMA is supposed to start in a few minutes, so obviously, don't want to, start rambling right now. So, but yeah, definitely go right ahead and take part in this AMA. I know that my friend Valentina Ruiz, you might know her as the person on Twitter that's known for promoting Star merch and also known for her petition. I know that she also wanted to take part in this AMA. I asked her if she wanted to actually join me and we could react together because I know she wants to hang out with me in person more. But she said she wanted to do the AMA today, so. But yeah, that's certainly, no cool for her. Yeah. And also, I guess I may as well say that if you do decide to take part in the AMA yourself, obviously please be respectful of, the crew and, don't, ask, whatever questions you want. As long as you're not being, volatile and vicious and, throwing fire and brimstone at the crew. Because I will tell you, even though I've been super frustrated with the Star vs. the Forces of Evil finale, I still respect the crew. I still, want to meet, Daron, Adam, and the rest of them again. I still would like to do interview videos with them, hang out with them. I'm still a really big fan of Star vs. the Forces of Evil. And I heard that, and, I still give them a lot of credit for, making a great show as it is under the pressure that they had. I mean, I know that, Star may not be the big franchise, Disney franchise like, the Disney animated movies or Marvel or Star Wars, but, it's still a lot of work to put together or, a show just in general, especially with such a vocal fan base such as the Star vs. the Forces of Evil fan base. So I still give them a lot of credit, don't get me wrong. So 1 minute away. Yeah, I already see a lot of, quite a few people already putting in questions. But again, not to sound like, elitist or anything, but because I want to focus much more on what the crew has to say, I'll, I'm mainly going to be responding to their answers, so we'll see. And also, if I do start getting questions in the chat, like from people asking me, hey, what goes on here and that sort of a thing, Let me actually double check to see if, the chat window is correct. Sorry about chat. Whoa. No. We're... Actually switch that to... Yeah, there we go. Okay, so... I'm just making sure. So... Already at 11:01, so... Let's see if they already started responding. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's some questions that, I won't be able to say much to. Like, I know somebody in the AMA asked, uh, Adam McArthur something about My Hero Academia. Obviously, since I don't watch My Hero Academia, I don't have too much to say. Okay, so I already see that one. So somebody asked about Star Marco's relationship. Well, this is actually a really long question. Let me... So the person mainly asked, why they decided to keep Star Marco as friends until the very, very end. Like, the person said they wanted to see Star Marco's progression as a couple. And here's what Daron said, quote, "I'm glad you enjoyed the Star Marco storyline. It was important to me to treat them like real teenagers. As we all know, relationships are messy. One thing I personally don't like are storylines where characters' first relationships are also their last ones. The whole Prince Charming thing. That's a lie. That's just not life. They need to date other people and have other experiences. I'm not sure what Star Marco's future looks like, but I know they are very much in love now." Oh, yeah, my inner fanboy took over me for like 5 seconds there. Did I mention that this is the Starco flag that I had designed? Yeah, so... But yeah, no, I definitely understand that. So basically, I think what Daron is basically saying is that, she wanted to show more of the sort of drama and the process of Star Marco getting together, and just how, kind of tumultuous, but also kind of exciting the process of falling in love is. I do really like how they took a much more realistic approach. I mean, I'm not a person who's dated, but I'm a person who's had, crushes in my life. And I know what it's like to be, in denial of your feelings, and to just get overly emotional over somebody that you don't know will really like you or is legitimately in love with you, and that sort of a thing. So I definitely respect where they're coming from. I do really like, even though, yeah, Starco, obviously, Star Marco's relationship, while it wasn't always perfect, like, I know that one of my major complaints was that I think they went a little too far in the episode Link Catcher, to the point where Star came off as, a bit of a, prickly kind of a person. But I do really respect that, they showed things like how they were in denial. And even, I think, even when Star Marco were aware of, each other's feelings, they were still not really ready to go there. And like I said, even though it's kind of sad that Star doesn't end on like a dance scene or one last kiss or even a hug, I do like, even though Daron did say that, I don't really know where they are now, I do like this idea that it does kind of imply it's completely up to you, what you think Star Marco did after they said hey and hi to each other at the end of Cleve. Did they go on their first date? Did they kiss? Do they, I don't know, play video games with each other? Do they go out for pizza or ice cream? Or do they go home to their parents and say, oh yeah, we're a couple now? And, well, but I generally like that. It does kind of have me concerned when she said, I don't really know where they are now. It does kind of have me concerned. Do they not really have like sequels or anything planned out? Or, I know the possibility is there that maybe Darren's just saying that because, she wants to she doesn't want to get into, any future products or that sort of a thing right now. But I guess we can only hope. So, okay. But yeah, definitely a really good question. Okay. Okay, what's this? Well, okay. So the person is asking, will Star and Ludo play basketball together, and are they friends now? And Darren said, "quote Oh, they are totally going to be playing basketball. I can't wait for the day that Ludo makes his first slam dunk." It says, I mean, it's kind of more of a super fan related question. Not that it's a bad question, it's definitely a fun question to ask. But I'm just thinking, are we gonna see would it be funny if we saw a basketball game between Ludo's team, he gets his brigade of monsters back, and they have a basketball match between them and Star's friends. She gets Marco, Kelly, and Tom in there, as well as Talon. I almost said Hekapoo, but if you've seen Cleve, you know why Hekapoo can't join the game. So yeah. By the way, if you do see any live streaming issues that I personally don't see, if it starts getting laggy, or I start or if I seem really choppy, please feel free to let me know. And don't be shy, let me know your thoughts on the crew's responses. We mainly get responses from Daron right now, but leave your own thoughts in the comments. I really enjoyed chatting with you, just like we did on the anniversary of the Blood Moon Ball episode. I mean, I hope it doesn't get. I don't go off on a tangent as much. I really want to stick to the AMA this time. At the very end of the stream, if people do start coming by, I will start answering anybody's questions. And it could be about anything. If you wanted to ask me about my thoughts on Star, or about the shows and movies I currently watch, or even things about my personal life. Obviously I can't go into everything in that sense, but please let me know. Okay. Oh, this is a really good one. So the person asked if Toffee planned for Star to destroy Magic after he was killed, or did he think he won up until he got until they say his face blasted, but I'm assuming they mean in Storm the Castle when the wand exploded and everybody thought, oh, Toffee must be dead. And Darren says he thought he won until he got his face blasted. So, that's actually kind of interesting. The weird thing is, if you remember in Storm the Castle, after the wand was destroyed, remember it started going berserk and the monsters were running around and going in portals and leaving. Toffee had that very interesting stare. When I saw that stare, they did that close up of his eyes. When I saw that, I was like, does he know something that's going on? And I remember for the longest time, I don't think a lot of us knew that what really happened was Toffee took over the realm of magic. Definitely a really good twist, but it's just oh wow, so that was he didn't know what, so he wasn't expecting it, or maybe what happened was he was thinking, okay, I destroyed the wand, and then when I'm still wondering if maybe what happened is when the wand started going berserk and they did that close up of his eyes, maybe he was thinking, oh, am I going inside the wand now? Or he was just thinking, what the heck is happening? I don't really know. I think that's there. It's one of those scenes that is open to interpretation, I would say. But definitely, yeah, good question. Okay, well, somebody had 4 questions. Okay, so um, I'm actually so I'm mainly going to be paraphrasing a lot of the questions that you see. So, okay. So the first question, woo, and Daron responds to all 4 of them. The first one is why the Star Crew wanted to make like an open ending, like an ending that is open to interpretation. And okay, this is kind of a extreme one. Like, and the person was also asking at the same time, throwing away all the work or history that was behind. Actually, that's kind of something that I also ask myself. Although, yeah, yeah, and then they ask in the tavern at the end of the multiverse. Apparently, one of the queens, Rena the Riddled, appeared without her cheek marks. I didn't see that, so maybe it's something that I'd have to go back to the episode and see. And then, And then the next question is why did Starko end with having the usual cliche of 2 friends falling in love? And another question is if they have something planned to close the story. So, okay, so I'll have to take Darren's responses one at a time. Quote, my goal is to create a satisfying ending that still left room for more. I feel like it's in the DNA of the universe to solve one problem but create another. That's Star Butterfly. I know it may not have been satisfying for everyone, but I hope it inspires a lot of fan fiction and drawings. I didn't want to solve everything and leave the fans nothing to play with. Plus, if I ever got to do more of a Star, I want something to play with. Ooh, so Darren is. I think she was even kind of hinting at this idea at the Star versus the Forces of Evil Toyzilla event, but she does sound like at least open to the idea of telling more stories. And I give her a lot of credit for saying it may not be to everybody's taste, but I hope it inspires, fan fiction and drawing. So basically, she wants the ending open to interpretation, in terms of things like what's going to happen now that, Earth, and by the way, major spoilers, it should come without saying, but there are going to be major spoilers in the discussion. Miraculous Anya, sorry I got your name mixed up a little. How are you? Hello. Oh, what do you think of the AMA so far? But I do give her a lot of credit for, saying it may not be to everybody's taste, but I hope it's open to interpretation. And I do like how they kind of took this realistic approach. Like Darren was saying, I do believe in this idea of, solving one problem, but opening up to another. So I definitely think, I give her a lot of credit for like trying to make an ending that's not like super like conclusive and this is it for all time. So yeah, because I remember when I had that group discussion when we discussed Cleve, Valentina asked the question, how is this whole Echo Creek and Muni thing going to work? Like, there's literally a spider on top of somebody's house, and that's a legitimate question. So I do like how Darren is opening that up to interpretation. And as for Rena appearing without her cheek emblems, she did say that is a mistake. Let's see what she said. Quote, yes, that was a mistake. You have no idea how hard it is to keep everything consistent. I've made myself totally crazy at times trying to fix the little mistakes in every episode. It's totally impossible to catch them all. And that I could completely understand. As a person, I'm a person when it comes to my videos. Not that I'm saying that I've had work experience similar to Darren and her crew. I'm sure that Darren works 10 times harder than what I do in the span of a year. But I could relate to that in the sense of both being somebody on YouTube. I'm a person who's always very panicky when it comes to getting my facts correct. And this is exactly why I backpedaled on like topics, or I don't really talk about topics like Butch Hartman and Oaxis, but I will be getting back to that soon because new information has been coming up with Oaxis. But something like Oaxis is incredibly difficult to research. I mean, you could just go to, the Oaxis website and, you're still under the impression of, oh, they haven't really done too much. But that's a really difficult topic to research because Butch has been really inconsistent with the spread of information. So I have to spend a lot of time looking at, going through all his social media pages and going through all the Oaxis pages just to make sure. Because even when I got done with my last Oaxis video, the topic of Oaxis is a case of you think you got everything covered, but you'll hear from somebody that, oh, there's actually this piece of information, which I admire. Don't get me wrong. I truly appreciate when I do get commenters telling me, especially when they're very polite about it, when they tell me, oh, you should check out this information. But I could totally relate to Daron in that sense. It's definitely impossible to get things pitch perfect, but you just have to try your best. And then the person asked, why did it's Darko end with the ending of having two friends fall in love? So Daron said that she's not sure if she understands this question, but I think what they're getting to is that the person thinks it's cliched that Starko is, it's basically a case of two best friends falling in love, which I understand. Yes, that's a cliche. This idea of course, they're the two lead characters. One's a boy and one's a girl, and they seem like a really cute couple. So of course they're gonna get together and fall in love. But what I personally think makes Starko interesting is a lot of the complexity and just how they really tried to make it run like a very complex, kind of hard to admit romance. Like this idea that Star and Marco were, for the longest time, were very uncomfortable about sharing each other's, especially romantic feelings. Like they've been best friends since nearly the beginning, but both sides, and this is what makes them I think this is what makes them complex, because we mainly see Star as this really bubbly and open and friendly character, whereas Marco is much more down to earth, especially in the season 1 episodes. Marco used to be like pretty ticked off whenever Star got into a lot of her shenanigans. But in the case of Starko, we're seeing this side of them where we actually do see a side where not only does Marco like Star, but he's totally all over the moon and in love with her. Like this person who at times he could find annoying is also somebody that really deep down he secretly has really intense feelings for. And in Star's case, you have this really outgoing character, this outgoing bubbly character, but deep down when it comes to her feelings with Marco, she's very she's very hush-hush with how she really feels about Marco, to the point where, if you remember in the Face the Music episode, when frickin' Ruberiot, sings that song, Star is in love with her best friend, and his name is Marco Diaz. She gets on Cloudy and leaves Butterfly Castle. So I do appreciate that they did try to, add, quite a bit of complexity and drama, and even bits where I even think there were bits where Star Marco even tried to deny their own feelings, which is especially apparent in the Curse of the Blood Moon episode. I still stand by what I said, where I think in Curse of the Blood Moon, both Star and Marco, one, they didn't want their feelings to be determined by a curse, and the other thing is they were just really anxious about how they felt about each other, and that's to the point where they just wanted to get rid of it, But when the chips were down and it seemed like that doing this would give up their intense feelings for each other, that's why Star and Marco were at the last minute, especially Star, when she asked the question, what if it was never the Blood Moon? So I give Daron and her crew a lot of credit for making Starco as complex as it was. And then the next question is, do you have something planned to close the story? And Daron said, not at this time. So I don't know. It sounds like this person wasn't like super satisfied with how open-ended like did the ending was, and probably thought that the ending was complete and is looking for, much more of a conclusion. And Daron said there's not much at this time. And it definitely seems like as soon as Daron and the crew got finished with Cleve, that was it for Star for now. Excuse me, let me take a second to eat. But, yeah. But I would like to see maybe in the future we get something like Star vs. the Forces of Evil graphic novels. Or maybe, but I wouldn't expect this for 5 to 10 years. I wouldn't expect this until Star becomes nostalgic. Maybe Disney Plus will come out with like a Star vs. the Forces of Evil sort of TV movie, just like what Nickelodeon is doing with Rocko's Modern Life and Invader Zim. Uh-oh. Ooh, CJR, I'm having a little bit of trouble finding the live stream for the AMA. I clicked on the link, but all it did was send me to the Star vs. the Forces of Evil Reddit homepage. CJR, I'll actually get to that. Hold on a second for the people. There is... The AMA itself it's just the text AMA. This isn't, a kind of thing where Daron and her crew are on camera. It's just them responding, using text. But give me a second. I'll actually correct it because I'll post a link to the AMA, so hold on. You might experience some lagginess because I'm opening another tab, so... Yep, got it. I got the link. Got it. And go over to info and settings. But yeah, it was a link to the Star or Reddit page because I figured that it would lead to the AMA itself. But I'll change it right now. You might have to refresh the page just to be super sure. Okay, so I changed it up, so hopefully you'll be able to go check it out. Yeah, sorry about that. I mainly kept it there because I figured a link to the AMA would just be on the Reddit page. But okay, so anyway, another question is person asking how come they didn't release the 2011 pilot of Star vs. the Forces of Evil, and they were asking if they ever plan to. And Daron said, quote, "That's a cool idea. I won't be able to make that decision, but I can ask the executives I work with at Disney." Which, I do think it's a possibility that maybe one of these days Disney Channel will release the pilot on their YouTube channel. It's kind of like what Avatar: The Last Airbender did. If you have the season 1 box set of Avatar on the 6th disc, they actually include the pilot for Avatar: The Last Airbender on that disc. You may have seen that before, where it's the one where Aang's fighting Zuko on all that scaffolding, and they have that, I think it was the dragon serpent. They showed the cut off head, and that's it's the one where Sokka is taken to this Fire Nation prison. I hope they do that with Star, obviously, because now we live in the age of Netflix and streaming. Maybe Disney Channel could release the pilot on their YouTube channel for everyone to see. So yeah, okay. Yeah, I always kind of feel bad whenever Daron, has to... Not that I don't want people asking, these kind of questions, but I always feel kind of bad whenever Daron has to leave off with, oh, I can't do things, but, you have to ask people at Disney. Or I remember the very first time I met her, Steven couldn't go. My friend Steven couldn't go. So he wanted me to ask Daron, will there ever be a Star vs. Forces of Evil Blu-ray? Will the episodes ever be released on Blu-ray? And, I asked Daron that, and she gave me the response of, no, but, you could, you have to bug Disney in order to let them know. She often goes around telling people that if you want more Star merch, you gotta bug the people at the Disney store. So I always feel bad that because on one hand, and she wishes she could do more, and I totally respect that. But the other thing too, I think, is that she herself is also kind of, I don't want to use the word frustrated, but she would also like to say Kimberly Nieto. I'm also having trouble like other people. I'm checking Twitter and they're saying that it froze for some reason. What froze? Do you mean the AMA froze, Kimberly? It seems to be running just fine. Like, if you're, like, what I'm doing is on my iPad, if it's the AMA, it's not freezing up on my end, but if it's freezing up on others' computers, it's probably because so many people are checking it out at once. What I do to handle the questions is, I do the thing where, like, I scroll up on my iPad and it refreshes. So, yeah. So, I don't know if that'll help you, but that's what's helping me. So, Kimberly, if you're referring to the AMA, I hope my video is not, my stream isn't freezing up, again. I went to all this trouble to upgrade this computer. But if it's the AMA, just try refreshing the page as of right now. But anyway, I'll get back to the AMA itself. Somebody asked if there will be a Star soundtrack released, and Daron said, quote, "No plans as of now, but that would be so cool. I tried tweeting at the Disney TVA Twitter, please keep telling them you love Star." So I definitely think that's also really cool. I'll be honest, the soundtrack of Star, even though I like it, it's not one of the aspects of the series where, like, I'm jumping up and down. I give Brian Kim a lot of credit. I've met him before. He's definitely a really chill dude. It's just that me personally, I don't really get into a lot of the songs in Star. I do get into some of the instrumentals in the show. It's just that I'm not really a music sort of person. So, I'm not, a kind of person that really gets into music all that much. But I definitely think it would be cool if they released a soundtrack where they include things like the Blood Moon Ball instrumental and the Starco theme and some of the songs from the show, like the Love Sentence songs, Too Little, Too Late, and Awesome Feeling, and that sort of thing. So, yeah, so it would be nice if Disney did release a soundtrack for Star, but, Disney is, of course, the kind of company that only speaks through money and getting as much money as they can, hence why, this is why they were buying 20th Century Fox, so, yeah, you just have to keep supporting them. I still remember Adam McArthur, when, at the Toyzilla event, he was like, somebody who ran social media for Funko, the company behind the Funko Pops, told Adam, "Can you please tell your fans to stop, requesting Star, because that's all they got for, one Twitter live session where I guess they were asking fans, oh, what Funko Pops would you like to make?" And all the responses were, Star Wars, The Forces of Evil. So, yeah. Yeah. I'm noticing a lot of people are asking questions regarding things like, can you guys release a soundtrack, or can you release, a DVD box set? And, of course, Daron is saying, no, I can't do that. That's up to Disney. So I'm going to see if I can find more story-related questions. Alright, I already... Ooh. Somebody asked Daron, what are all of your fave parts of the show? Is this the one where... Oh. And Daron said, quote, "That's hard. I have a lot of favorites. Booth Buddies and Instantly Wand are ones that I really love." So, much respect to her. Into the Wand, definitely remember, that was the episode where Star went to, this really twisted version of her school in Echo Creek. That was also the first time that we saw the grandma room, with all the tapestries, and that was definitely a very, very, very surreal episode. It was also a very tense episode, especially when all those star clones were starting to show up, and when they were all going after Toffee's fingers. So I definitely enjoyed that episode. Boof Buddies, I know that's the episode where Star and Marco had their first kiss. I still think that's kind of an awkward episode. I kind of feel that episode was a bit too. I guess I could say that it was it was trying too hard to show just how awkward Star and Marco's feelings. It was kind of like they had an idea for the episode, but the writing didn't really come through to it. It was really hard to to really get a sense of what was going on, especially like when Star and Marco, they were taking pictures in the photo booth, and Star was like, how come the photos, they just don't feel the same? Like, I really don't know how to feel about that. And when they got to when they got to the kiss, at least for me, I know there's some people out there who really like that scene, but I just thought that it just came kind of out of nowhere, and I really thought they should have saved the kiss for something like the episode where Star and Marco finally did kiss. I think it was in the Here to Help episode. I mean, that was much more earned. And I guess you could attribute in Booth Buddies to, oh, well, it's because I noticed that my audio is kind of loud. I guess you could attribute it to, well, Star and Marco's feelings were really awkward at the time, but it just felt like it wasn't, I at least didn't feel like it was written really awkwardly, even for an awkward scene. But if Daron really does like those two episodes, much more credit to her. I completely respect that. Oh boy. I know that, oh boy, this is gonna be so awkward for Valentina Ruiz. Somebody asked, what do you feel about the petition for a season 5? And Daron said, quote, I think it's great. I hope someone pays attention. I guess she's referring to Disney television animation. But, yeah, I definitely think, it'll be really, I'm one of those people that thinks that the way Star should come back should either be a TV movie or a sequel series. Like what, like if they ever make a sequel series that had, like, let's say Star and Marco, when they become adults, mind you, like, when they, get into, like, their 20s, and they, they get married, and they decide to have children. I think somebody brought up a fan theory of what happens if Star and Marco have a child when they're adults, and the child, has magic. Which I definitely think would be really interesting and be an indication that maybe magic isn't completely destroyed. But I just don't know. I mean, if they ever do if they did, I don't think they will, like, make a season 5 because it would take, too long for it to come out. But if they did, I'd still check it out, mind you. But I think the transition would be much better if they either did a sequel series, just like with Korra, with Avatar, or if they ever do, like, a TV movie, like what Nickelodeon is doing with Rocko's Modern Life and Invader Zim. So, yeah. But definitely, good question. Already got to that. Ooh, okay. Somebody asked if all the dimensions were cleaved or it was just Earth and Muni cleaved. And Daron said just Earth and Muni. So, which makes sense, especially since, those are the dimensions that Star and Marco themselves have come from. So, yeah, I think I totally understand that. That's also the impression I got too. I actually thought what happened was Echo Creek and Muni have what basically happened is now they basically merged together, and now they're either a giant city or like a giant country. I guess you could say something like, are there really any examples I could bring up without being too political or making or taking it out of context? I don't know. But when I think of like multiple countries, even if they don't get along, multiple countries merging to form one state, I think of things like, East and West Germany coming together to make a unified Germany, or something like the Balkan states, or actually that was a case of one state breaking up into multiple countries, something like Yugoslavia and that sort of thing. I watch a lot of geography now. By the way, that's how I know about all these things. I don't know if Paul Barbato or Barbie will ever see this video, but if he does, much more power to you. But that was definitely. But I got the impression that it was just Marco's home and Star's home coming together. Which I'm wondering if somebody in this AMA will bring up, if somebody's going to ask, how will Star Marco travel to other dimensions? Because how are they going to get to places like, I still imagine they will want to go to things like the Tavern at the End of the Multiverse, and, Kelly's dimension, obviously, and the Goblin Dog dimension, if anything, for those hallucinogenic hot dogs. But I'm wondering, that was like one of the questions I wondered when I saw Cleve, like, how in the hell are they going to get to those dimensions now? Are they going to, I don't know, pay off Elon Musk to build a rocket ship to get to those dimensions? Because I think that was one of the things I don't think the Star crew really considered, or maybe they considered this, but they just, pushed, but it just didn't really bother them as much. Just in terms of, if Star destroyed the magic, how are people going to get to other dimensions now? You can't, take Dimensional Scissors and cut it open. Like, Hekapoo's gone, so it's just like, what are you going to do now? Build a rocket? So I think that's gonna have to be something that's solved through like a graphic novel, or or if we have to wait for like a Star sequel series, for that to happen. Which I hope we don't have to wait that long for an answer. But I don't think. I mean, I know fans are obviously open to interpretation, giving their take on what they think is gonna happen, but it's such a big, like how could I put this? It's such a big, like, sort of thing that it's really hard to, or at least for me, it's really hard to imagine, what they could do. Are they gonna build a rocket to go to, Kelly's dimension? And I don't want the answer to be, oh, well, it was worth it because, magic had to be destroyed to get rid of that fucking patriarchy. And if you do think destroying the magic was a good idea, more power to you, but it's just like, how are you going to travel to dimensions now? So, I don't know. I don't want to turn this live stream into, like, when I freaked out over discussing Cleve. Somebody referred to Daron as Nefcy. Just call her Daron. Like, that's what I call her when I, interview, Daron, like, her at events. I know I sometimes refer to, like, animators by their last names whenever I do videos or when I do tweets. That's mainly journalism, because, like, in journalism, you say the person's full name on first reference, and then you say the last name, on everything else. Like a perfect example is let's take for instance Reggie Fils-Aimé, for instance, the former Nintendo of America president. Like, proper, like, journalism style would tell you have to say Reggie Fils-Aimé, like his full name on first reference, the first time you mention him. And then every time after, you just refer to his last name. Like, Fils-Aimé said da-da-da-da-da, and Fils-Aimé said this and that sort of thing. I mean, unless there's, like, they mention somebody else who has the last name Fils-Aimé. But, yeah, but for journalism reasons, I could understand. Maybe if you're talking to a politician, you refer to them by their last name. It also makes sense. But, yeah, if you meet Daron Nefcy in real life, just call her Daron. It's okay. Same with Adam McArthur and the rest of the crew. They all refer to each other by their first names. By the way, if there is if people in the that are watching this stream, if you have questions of your own, or if there's a question that I'm not seeing on Reddit, just please let me know. I know that I've mainly been responding to Daron Nefcy's answers so far, but do hope to come across ones from Adam and Adam McArthur, Dominic Bisignano, and Aaron Hammersley. But I'll get to that after I check this question out. So this person is asking, what is Daron going to do now that Star is over? And the other question is it possible that Star is not over yet? And the last one is person I'm thanking Daron for creating the show. And she said the response to the first question is, quote, I don't know, to be honest. I've been taking a long break. First summer break I've had since I started working in animation 10 years ago. It's been really nice. I'm hoping to develop more original shows in the future. So that could be a possible hint. And I do really want to see what Daron can do with, like, the same, very similar crew, even though that's going to be really hard to do because I know a lot of the people on Star working on other projects now, but I would like to see her like make another original series, whether it be for Disney, Disney Channel or another network. I definitely think, she has a lot of potential. She's a very creative person and knows how to tell a good story. So regardless of where she goes, maybe she's going to jump ship like what Alex Hirsch has done. Like Alex Hirsch, the creator of Gravity Falls, he's gone over to Netflix and is now co-executive producing stuff over there. So regardless of what she decides to do, I totally respect her on what she wants. And the second question is it possible that Star is not over yet? And Daron responds by saying, quote, no plans as of right now, but please keep asking the powers that be. I would love to do more with Star. So yeah. And as I've been saying in this stream, I'm especially open to things like a Star vs. Forces of Evil sequel series or a TV movie, especially down the line. I'm thinking that, and I'm not saying that, I don't want more Star, but I'm just, trying to keep it real with how Disney is very, they don't really give the same treatment to their television series as they do with their really big movies. If they don't want to go through the trouble and money of developing a whole new series, then I'm content with something like a Star TV movie down the line. It would still be interesting in the sense that if you look at the Nickelodeon TV movies, for Invader Zim, Hey Arnold, and Rocco, they all seem to be around the same age. I mean, I know for Rocco it's different because they've been floating around space for 20 years, so I guess they're 20 years older now. But I am interested in this idea that maybe we'll see, if we're a Star sequel series, if we do see them as adults, they do take advantage of the fact that it's been years since, we've seen the characters. Something like what they did with Korra, and I don't know, does Blade Runner 2049 count? Because with something like Blade Runner, the first movie takes place in the year 2019, and it came out in 1982, and the sequel came out in, I think it was 2017, so that is, I can't do math, like 35 years later, but it was 30 years after the events of the first one. But, you know, that sort of thing where it really takes advantage of how it's been a really long time. So, yeah. Somebody asked, who is, Darren's favorite fan artist. I don't think she's going to answer that kind of thing because, you know, I don't think she wants to partake in, like, favoritism and that sort of thing. Okay, this is a nice question. A quote. How long before the start of the show were you working on the plot, and how far did the show deviate from the initial rough draft of it, if at all? And Darren says, quote, I've been working on Star since 2007. It's been a long process. Each individual episode takes about a year from start to finish. We work on a whole season all at once. So, she said that she's been working on Star since 2007. So, wow, literally, you know, if you think about it, Star, at least as an official series, have at least been in the works in some sort of way for the span of around 11 years. Well, actually 12 years, I should say, because the series ended a few months ago. So, you know, wow, that's like 12 years of her life. Dang. So yeah, I still like to think that, you know, they kind of left things, you know, like the whole things like, you know, Monster Arm. I kind of think they left things like, you know, Monster Arm in there, like, because they were thinking, oh, if we have time to get back to Monster Arm, you know, we'll do an episode on the return of Monster Arm, or even things like. I still kind of think that there's a possibility that maybe they toyed around with this idea of what if they did an ending where Magic stayed, you know, because there's, you know, episodes showing, you know, where, like in Mr. Candle Carries, remember in that episode, Star was worried about, you know, oh, I don't want to become the Queen of Muni, and Marco comforts her by saying, you know, hey, when you become Queen of Muni, you can run the kingdom, you know, any way you want. And then in Meteor's lesson, you know, after Meteor gets back home from kicking Toffee's ass, Lost Rick says, you know what? I think Magic is in good hands. And that sort of thing. So I kind of think they left those things there just in case they wanted to. And I'm not saying this is the truth. I'm just speculating. I kind of think they left those things there just in case they wanted to deviate from like their original plans and that sort of thing. But that's my personal take on it. Okay, I'm trying to see if I can get more responses from the other people in this chat. Even looking back at some of the questions, just in case I missed something from the other people that are taking part in the CMA. I think this is a response from Adam McArthur. Somebody was asking, you know, how come Jana is able to get away with all the kind of stalkery stuff that Jana did. Yeah, the question is, quote, how did you manage to get away with all the creepy stalker stuff that Jana does to Marco? Because obviously it would never fly if they were gender swapped. And Adam apparently says Marco gave his consent, although he doesn't remember. So that's really freaky. And you think about all that stuff that Jana supposedly did, you know, like when she snaps her fingers and she says chicken butt, it makes Marco go to sleep. Or things like how apparently she hypnotized Marco to get rid of his love for nachos. So I really don't know what else other to say to that other than, you know, I think it's really freaky. And then there's also, you know, I remember in the Star Marco's Guide to Mastering Every Dimension, one of the first Star books that I got my hands on, Marco said that sometimes Jana just shows up at his house and is already there eating food. So it's just like, yeah, that's definitely really creepy. Okay. Once again, you know, let me know, you know, your thoughts to the crew's answers to these questions and in the live discussion. And yeah. Okay. Somebody asked Adam about My Hero Academia. Once again, since I don't follow My Hero Academia, I can't really give too many of my thoughts on that. Okay, ooh, this is interesting. So this person is asking Daron if Starco was planned from the beginning, or did fan reaction, you know, sort of boost Starco or make it more of a thing. And then the second, and this is what I've been asking myself: was Monster Arm supposed to come back? And you know, the season one kind of hinted at it. And Daron said the response to the first question is, quote, I did have it planned for some time. I know some people got very into the shipping, which is cool, but I never intended for people to get so crazy. I wanted to treat them like real teenagers and their relationships as teenagers would. So she's saying that Starco was planned from the beginning. I do think it was also planned because I heard that Star is based on Daron Nefcy herself, and Marco is supposed to be based, at least from what I heard, that Marco is based on her husband, Bobby Miller. So it's just like, it just seemed like, you know, they were gonna get together just based on that alone. Also, on top of the fact that, you know, I think that I'm sure I'm pissing my sister off because I'm mentioning Starco for the 100 millionth time. But I also think that you know, like I was saying, that I do appreciate how complex Starco was. That, and also just the fact that they have such a great, like, Star and Marco have such a great, you know, you scratch my back, I scratch yours kind of relationship, and how, you know, it's a kind of case, even though, you know, I know that Miss Mojo said it's a case of, you know, opposites attract, and I definitely think that's the case. You know, it's kind of like, and this kind of like yin yang effect of Star Marco's relationship, I think, is, you know, that's what makes it, you know, very enjoyable to watch. The second one was, to be honest, we tried to write the Monster Arm Return episode many times and we could never really get it to work. I believe it's still in Marco, still might emerge someday. So, ooh. Yeah, that's the thing that, you know, I was saying earlier that maybe they were keeping some things in because they were thinking, oh, if we have time, you know, we'll get back to this. So Daron is saying, you know, what happened was they did try to make like a Monster Arm Return episode, but it didn't really work out. And I definitely think one of the trickier things to do would be, how would Monster Arm come back? What would be like the impetus for bringing him back? I do remember I actually tried writing this a fan story where Marco gets bit by this plant and he starts getting like really sick and throwing up, and it's weird. It's like you guys might know, like, I'm a big fan of the movie The Fly, the David Cronin, that really gross David Cronenberg movie where Jeff Goldblum is very gradually turning into this really scary ass like fly human like hybrid. And yeah, I guess I took a very similar approach to that story, because after Marco gets bit, he very gradually transforms into like this monster that's like, like, I'll get into like the full details, where like his skin starts to turn purple, his mind becomes more of a monster, like he starts like arguing with himself over you should do this or that, and then he has this full-on transformation where he's chasing Star throughout out the house. Like, not only does Monster Arm come back, but he also has another Monster Arm on his arm, and his head also turns into a Monster Arm. And I think I also had a thing where like I thought that his feet were going to turn into like tentacles too. And yeah, it actually ends like, sort of tragically. Like, it got to the point where Star has to debate whether she has to cut Marco's head off. I remember I told Gabby this, I also told my sister, and they were just like, no, that sounds horrible. It's weird though, because it sounds oddly similar to The Fly, because in that movie, obviously you have the gradual transformation, and not only that, they kind of implied that the Jeff Goldblum character, his mind is becoming like more of an animal. There's that scene where he attacks the John Getz character, like he pukes on his ankle and it starts to dissolve, and also pukes on like his hand. And the very end of this movie, Gina Davis's character has to debate like shooting his head off, which I won't, I don't want to spoil that movie. If you haven't seen The Fly 1986, definitely go watch it. It's definitely not for the faint of heart. It's definitely a really gross like horror movie, and the final transformation, it honestly still gives me nightmares, if I'm being really honest. But it's definitely a really fantastic movie. I highly recommend it. But anyway, I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent. If Gabby was here, she would definitely disagree. Okay, so we have a response from Dominic in terms of any ideas for future projects. And this is what he had to say. Quote, I, Dominic, am working on... Oh, wait, he's talking about projects he's doing for other shows. But I'll let you know what he said. He says, quote, I am working on Megan Dong's unannounced show at Netflix, and I have something in development at Warner's. Aaron is on Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous. Daron is working on Surprises. And Adam just did voice work for Big City Green. So it doesn't really deal too much with, like, Star itself. But it is, great to hear that most of the people have been finding, other, working on other shows. I know that on top of Big City Greens, that Adam is also doing the voice of a character. And Daron is as well on Nico Coelho's Ollie and Scoop show, which I actually like watching from time to time. And Gray Griffin, who plays Jackie and Moon, is also on that show. So... But I am really glad to see what they're doing too. Daron is working on Surprises. What does that mean? Is she like pitching a new show or something like that? I'd be very curious to hear. Okay, so we got a response from Aaron Hammersley for a question in terms of what do Marco's parents do for jobs? And this person was saying that they just finished watching the show. And Aaron says, quote, Angie, who's Marco's mom, quote, Angie is a teacher and poet. Raphael, his dad, is an artist. Here's an Easter egg for you. In the season 1 episode Chirp Star, I added a painting in the shed, which is actually a famous Van Gogh painting that had been stolen and has never been recovered. So either Raphael is an art thief or he paints replicas of stolen paintings. I don't want to think of, Marco's dad being a bad person. Like, he's definitely like a very like giddy sort of person. I'm kind of wondering if it's a thing where like his inner artist got the best of him and maybe he stole the painting. I really don't want to think of that because I just can't picture him stealing a painting. Or maybe what he did is like he's such an art fan that he painted like a replica of the Van Gogh that Aaron is talking about. So yeah, definitely very as Baby would say, interesting question. Kind of a funny question. Somebody asked, "What does Star think of Pringles?" And Aaron in Hammersley says, "Quote: She loves them, but it does mess up her stomach." Okay, that's kind of funny. Not sure. I'm not sure if it's like a not to delve too deep in this question because it's meant to be more of a fun sort of a question. But it's kind of funny because like Star is able to handle most like Earth food. I know some people bring up, oh, what about the Sugarito in Star versus Echo Creek? But did you see how much sugar she ate? Not only did she put like a shit ton of sugar on the burrito, but she also like ate some of the sugar from the canister. So it's just like, so that's an exception to the rule. Oh, okay, that is a very good question. Somebody asked did Miss Skolnick the Echo Creek teacher turn back into a human after the destruction of magic? And Aaron Hammersley said, "Yep." So I'm guessing that means that that anybody who's affected by Star spells, which I'm not really sure. Once the magic was destroyed, it was all gone. So I think that's part of why that when Marco got stabbed by the unicorn, that was why when he came back to Earth, the wound was gone. So I'm wondering if this also means that Monster Arm, although Daron did say there's a possibility that Monster Arm could still be there, if Monster Arm is really gone. So that's what kind of has me concerned. Wait. Okay, so we're getting into the 12 noon part. Let me know. So yeah, let me know your thoughts. For the people watching, let me know your thoughts on the AMA session and the answers that the crew has given, because these are definitely some really insightful answers. Ooh, this is pretty contentious, Kelly. By the way, I've shown this flag before, but I really like talking about my Starco. The shipping flags. Where's Kelco? Yeah, I did actually. Just to show you. Even though I do like Starco is my OTP. This is the shipping flag that I made for Kelco. You could see red obviously symbolizes Marco, green for Kelly. The shield, I don't know how good it'll come up on camera. The shield is something that I think it was both me and my sis we designed, where we have the dragon cycle here and the sword, obviously representing Star and Marco. But yeah, Kelco is definitely one of the more awkward relationships in Star versus the Forces of Evil. And so the question is, were there plans for Kelly and Marco's relationship that weren't able to come to fruition? If so, what were those plans? Also, your show was amazing. I loved it, and yeah. So, and then Adam basically says, quote, "We loved and we lost. We simply grew apart." In classic Adam McArthur fashion. But yeah, it's just like, I don't know. I mean, I do like this idea of Star and Marco becoming like breakup buddies, where maybe they become closer friends because both of them are dealing with really tumultuous relationships. Like how Kelly was getting over Tad, and Marco was still having, let's just put it at, mixed thoughts on Star, and so I am open to this idea of them becoming like closer friends. When they were trying to deal with their feelings about each other's like exes slash love interest. But the way where it was handled, where it looked like they were starting to get into like romantic deep feelings when they became breakup buddies, just felt. I mean, I honestly think that was like a case of like romance for romance's sake, because all that really happened was, okay, so we see Kelly and Marco like stick together in the cornball episode, but then it's like literally the next time we see them in the episode where they're going out, biking. I forgot the episode name is really long. It's the one where Tom, is on the dragon cycle. Kelly is like, oh no, we decided to call it the breakup buddies thing. So, yeah. As my friend Steven said, that's just really inexcusable. Somebody asked him which Halo game would Marco play on the weekends, which I've never actually played Halo. Like, I've never owned an Xbox console. Big shock. It's not that I hate, Microsoft or Xbox. It's just that a lot of the games on I'm on the Xbox. I think I'm more interested in the PlayStation franchises. But I would be up for trying games like Halo, Gears of War. I'm actually surprisingly interested in a couple. Halo, Gears of War, and I played a bit of Forza. But, I'm open to the idea of maybe playing something like Halo on Xbox Game Pass one of these days. I'm curious myself, like, in terms of, what if Marco became a Doom fan? I think that would be really interesting. It's hard to say if Star would get into something like Doom. Do you think that she would? Because, well, obviously, she doesn't have the love of fighting monsters anymore. But Doom is a game where you're running around shooting demons and often, decapitating them by hand. Like there have been times in the game where like my character, when I hit the right control stick, the character will like rip like the demon's like jaw off. So it's just like I'm not really sure how Star would feel about that. Okay, so somebody's asking. I'm not sure how to feel about this one. Like somebody asked, that Marco and Star, they broke the blood moon curse, and cursed the blood moon. Then how come Marco's cheeks glowed when he and Star made that portal and cleaved? And Aaron Hammersley said that the moon cheek marks, they had to do more with his exposure to magic. So I guess what Aaron is getting at is he's trying to clarify that, his cheeks glowed, the moon cheeks, to show like Marco channeling his magic and him making the portal with Star. What I wondered is why did the moon cheeks have that sort of like red outline? I don't think we saw that in the deep dive episode. Actually see that from it doesn't show up well on my camera, but Adam McArthur posted on his Instagram story him and the rest of the Star crew, they're each on laptops answering the AMA. So okay, let's see. A lot of people were asking about a season 5. boy, somebody has mentioned... Why did I sound like Mr. Poopy Butthole from Rick and Morty? Woo-wee! Yeah, somebody mentioning that petition. Which, full disclosure, I did sign the petition myself back when it was first released. I give Valentina a lot of credit for creating it. I mainly just signed it just more out of optimism rather than, saying, I want a season 5 now, because, as I said, what I would like to see more is either a Star vs. the Forces of Evil like sequel movie or a sequel series. So couple good questions that Daron responded to. Quote, and somebody was asking if there were ideas for episodes that got changed or scratched, and then Daron said, quote, oh man, we had this weird one where Skolnick was dating the orange grunting monster. When one about Mr. Diaz's job, they didn't make it. So I think they were basically meant to be more sort of like fillery episodes. Maybe we would get more insight into what Miss Skolnick's life is like now that, she was turned into a troll. But Orange Grunting, I'm not sure, who is she referring to? Do any of you people in the chat know who she's referring to? Is she talking about that douchebag Helios, in the, what was that episode? It was the Royal Pain episode. Is that who she's talking about? If so, it wouldn't go well, because as Miss Skolnick would just be orbiting that, that loser, all day long. And what about Mr. Diaz's job? So we would get insight into what his life like as a painter. Or who knows? Maybe we would have gotten, some insight into that Van Gogh piece that was mentioned earlier. Yeah. Quote, I saw many people critique the series finale. What did the crew think about the criticism? And Daron said, quote, it doesn't feel good. We tried to do the best job we could do. Which, I will say from my perspective, as somebody that was also a pretty critical about MacLeod, once again, I absolutely don't wish any bad on the Star crew. I do, congratulate them for making an overall really great series with some amazing twists and getting through it all. And it's been really great to meet, the Star crew themselves. Not to sound egotistical, but I have been to many of the Gallery Nucleus events, and the crew has been really fun to meet. And, like I said, I do, acknowledge that I do feel happy that now that Star is no longer a princess, this means that she could live like a more, like, sort of chill, normal life, and that sort of thing. So, yeah. Now, if you, like, my perspective is, if you didn't like the finale yourself, it's okay. Like, I know there's some prominent Star fans out there that are also very critical of the finale. The length that you shouldn't go to, though, is by saying you want to personally, like, attack the crew or screw them, or saying that, no, you didn't work hard, you fucked up, this was so bad. It's just like, you go to that extreme, you're being absolutely disrespectful, Constructive criticism is supposed to, drive art, not destroy the people who worked so hard to make it. And then somebody asked if there's anything they'd like to say to the fan base, and Daron says, quote, you are all the best, thank you for your support. And Daron also says, quote, we love our fans. Yeah. And then Daron's also, legitimately supportive person. I've posted on Instagram before. I know I have this really bad habit of mine when I go on Twitter and say that, I don't feel so good and things like that. But Daron has been, like, really, like, supportive. Like, I remember there was this one time I posted on Instagram saying I wasn't, I was feeling really down and was going for a dark time. I think this was during my job search, and Daron, put a comment in my comment section saying, hey, it helps me when, I go for a walk in nature, which I was actually able to do, I think, on like one of the last days of my previous job. I went to the LA Arboretum and took some really kick-ass photos. Yeah, and Daron also seems to like some of my photography. Like, she liked this photo I took. I recently took a vacation in Cambria, which is in Central California, and the exposure is not working. But I took this really nice photo of the this long exposure photo of, you might be able to see it here, of some waves crashing against the rocks at Moonstone Beach, and I don't really like bragging about, oh, so and so, really big follower, like the photo. And Daron Nefcy herself, I can't really see it. You might see her profile picture, like the photo. So she's definitely a really supportive person, and I give her all the credit in the world for being that. So yeah, definitely a really sweet, down to earth person. That's the thing that, like, whenever, like, I bring somebody to meet Daron at events, they always tell me, wow, she's a very down to earth person. Yeah, she definitely is. She's very, kind and sweet. And I give her a lot of credit for making this amazing show. Ooh, okay, so a couple more. So this question got responses from both Daron and Adam. And the question is, graffiti on Earth. It was showing about how the first settlers got to Muni, how did they get there? And they also bring up how none of the first Muni settlers knew how they got there. And Daron says, quote, they fell through the earth well, which at the time was not covered by burritos tacos. They traveled through the magic and lost their memories along the way. And Adam also left a response saying, quote, the brainwashing effect of the magic lasts longer / shorter on different people. Those people may have gotten their memory back like Queen Moon. I definitely think that's a possibility, unless they manage to find chocolate pudding. But what I'm curious to know is, what was that portal doing there to begin with? Like, is there something that, I think this is something that's more left to fan interpretation, I think. I'm really starving, by the way. Like, I just want to know, what was it doing there to begin with? Like, it is nice that, it seems like the humans themselves are basically humans. They just fell into this magical world, and now the two are living in, in very drastically different societies. But what I'm curious to know is, what was that portal doing there to begin with? So, yeah. And then Adam was saying that, magic lasts longer and shorter on different people. I guess a good example of that is, like, remember it was either in Divide or Conquer, I don't remember which episode, I think it was in the episode Divide, when Star got back, remember when she and Moon were frolicking around the realm of magic because their memories were basically wiped? Where'd the hairy lady go? I don't know. When Star got back to Muni, she basically got her memory back as soon as, like, River woke her up. But when the next time we saw Moon, in the Pie Folk episode, Moon's memory was just basically complete, like, not completely wiped, but she basically, couldn't remember herself of when she got, to the land of the Pie Folk. She was just there making pies. And when Star and her friends got there, she couldn't, remember who she was. The only way that Star is able to get Moon's memory to start jogging was when, she sang, that's the Pie song. And, very gradually Moon started to, gain her memory back. Like, she initially couldn't remember when Eclipsa accidentally hurt her in, back in the ending of season 2. But we find out that, behind the scenes, Moon was actually, it sounds like she was getting her memory back, and she became very mistrusting of Eclipsa, And then somebody asked a quote, "How exactly did Moon's mother die?" And Daron just straight up says Toffee killed her, and they don't say what he did. Which again, Star vs. the Force of Evil being, although not that they don't show like on screen, killings in like Disney movies, like a Scar throwing Mufasa over the cliff in The Lion King, but I guess it's something they don't really want to get into, in Star vs. the Force of Evil, which I understand. So I don't know. I mean, as a person who watches like Martin Scorsese and Ridley Scott movies, I don't want to imagine what I don't really want to talk about what I possibly think could happen, but yeah. Ooh, so another question regarding Eclipse and Meteora. See, season 3 finale. Why did Meteora turn back into a baby and lose her memories when hit by Black Velvet Inferno? Force the attack in the moment after Eclipse used the spell. Imply the spell should have killed Meteora. Ooh, and Daron gives her. So basically, the person was asking, how come, when Meteora was turned back into a baby, how come she lost most of her memories except for, her distaste of Marco? And they're saying that that the spell that was casted on Meteora should have like killed her. And Daron responds by saying, quote, Eclipse wanted to give Meteora a second chance. For a moment she didn't know if the spell would work. It was a desperate spell that could have easily killed her, but the results were just what Eclipse wanted. So I'm guessing that means that what Eclipse wanted to do, like she wanted to use the spell to turn Meteora back into a baby so she could, basically give Meteora a chance to, start from the beginning again and restart her life and give her, the childhood she should have deserved. After a lifetime of getting screwed by, like King Shastakan and having to be raised by that robot Saint Olga. Yeah. And yeah, that was a really chilling moment, though. I remember seeing that episode, and it looks like she killed a Meteora, but when you start hearing this like baby crying, it's just like this really joyous moment that like, oh my god, the spell worked, and now Meteora is back into a baby. And not only that, it's like she's getting another chance to she's getting a second chance on life. She gets to start all over again. And I think that's really moving from Eclipse's perspective, especially from, her being Eclipse's, mother and not being able to be there to raise her and watch her grow up because she was crystallized by the powers that be. So I think that was, really, really amazing. And that's the thing, as much as, there have been times where for all the plot holes and like my take on the Star vs. the Forces of Evil ending, it's really hard to deny the really amazing moments that Star had. That's what keeps me coming back from the show, because there's always like a really amazing twist or a really amazing way they progress the story. So yeah, I'm even getting kind of moved just thinking about what it means for Eclipse to be able to turn Meteora back into a baby and basically give her a second chance on life. And then somebody asked, what's a warnicorn? And Daron says, quote, it's the unicorn that needs the blood of its enemies to survive. So I guess, for instance, like back in the days of when, humans and monsters hated each other, does this mean, like, if the humans rode the Warnicorns into battle and they, killed a whole bunch of monsters, they would have to eat monster flesh or drink the blood of monsters to survive? That's really kind of freaky. Okay, and then, ooh, yeah, I'm just finding a lot of, Daron's responses to more and more questions. Somebody asked what inspired her to make a Star vs. the Forces of Evil, and Daron says, quote, the show was really inspired by childhood experiences. I was obsessed with Sailor Moon as a kid and always wanted to make a magical girl show. In my first star pitch, she was younger and more like me as a kid. Her magical powers weren't really I think she meant to say her magical powers weren't really there. They were in her imagination. She was a happy kid who was determined to save the day with no real powers and without many friends. At Disney, the executives asked me for her to age her up, and they led to the Magic Universe immunity and her being a foreign exchange student, etc. So, yeah, I mean, not that it's a bad question, bad response, but it's something that if you follow the Star vs. the Forces of Evil community for a while, I think that's an answer that a lot of Star fans know, that like Daron Nefcy was a really big Sailor Moon fan, hence why Star looks a lot like Sailor Moon, like with the blonde hair and and having powers and that sort of a thing. And I definitely recall that reading that Daron had this idea initially that Star was a little kid and that she had a cat named Cashew, hence why Daron's cat is named Cashew. And she believed she had magical powers even though it was in her imagination. And then when she took the show to Disney basically asked her to hey, you should age up Star and make her. I think from there, that's when they decided, okay, let's make, Star a princess and that sort of thing. Which, goes really well, especially, with it being Disney. So, yeah. Definitely interesting. Ooh, I'll get to, a question I just came across, but, this one here somebody asked, what other project is Daron doing and what are some of her favorite hobbies? And Daron said, quote, I'm taking a little break, hoping to work on some more original projects in the future. And the second response is she loves to hike and ride her bicycle. So, yeah, and there was a person responding that she earned a vacation. And yeah, once Star got out, especially since it's hard work making a show as amazing as Star, but it's also I'm sure even though the Star fandom for the most part is a really friendly one. I know there's people who go to extremes. I know from both personal experience, and I know there's people out there who have even gone through worse than I've been through, but I definitely feel that Daron deserves a break after not only all the hard work, but I'm sure she, gets a lot of flack from, the fandom, especially when they come out with an episode that people don't really like and they go over to the top with their dislike for them. Once again, I don't, it's okay to be critical, but don't go to the extreme where you're going to go to really needlessly violent things, like you're gonna threaten to like hurt the crew or saying that your show is awful and things and you should give up on animation. That's a bridge way too far that you don't need to go to. So yeah, but I'm definitely really excited to see. I hope that because Star has the vocal following it has, I hope that it does tell like execs at maybe like Disney or even other studios, like Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, and even Netflix, and hey, this person made a really amazing show, and maybe you should consider hiring for if she wants to make another show in the future. Because I guarantee you, if one of these studios comes out for show and they're able to advertise that from the creator of Star vs. the Forces of Evil, you're gonna get a lot of traction for that show, at least initially. Okay. Somebody asked, are the laser puppies alive? And Daron said, yes, they are just regular puppies now. Which is definitely a really huge relief, because I know that a lot of fans were scared that because magic is destroyed, that means all the magical characters must be dead. Because we saw that in Cleaved after Star destroyed the magic. Miraculous Anya, I don't think there was a live stream. No, there wasn't a live stream. It was just, the the Star crew responding using text on the Reddit AMA. Sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear, Anya, that you sent a question that didn't get a reply. But no, this live stream that you're watching here, this is me responding to the AMA itself. So I know it was I made it sound confusing, and I apologize for that. But this was, as the title says, this is me responding to the Star AMA live. So I'm sorry about that. What was the question that you sent them, Miraculous Anya? I'd like to hear it. But yeah, getting back to the question in the meantime, Darren admitting that the laser puppy's alive, which is definitely a big relief, don't get me wrong. I think it's just that, kind of like what the Instagram user Morning Marka, I think is how you pronounce this person's name. It's just that they don't have magical powers anymore. So yeah, I really hope I didn't confuse too many people, because I did say in my title that I was responding to the Star live stream, live. So yeah, I know it caused a bit of confusion, and I apologize for that. But the point of this live stream was for me to analyze what the Star crew responded to in the Reddit AMA. Miraculous Anya said, well, at least Nefcy answered some questions from others. I mean, yeah, it's true, but at the same time, you deserve to have your voice heard, Miraculous Anya. You should, just leave in the description. What was your question? I'd like to hear it. There's a couple questions that Adam responded to. But yeah, I really hope I'm not confusing, a lot of people, because the Reddit AMA is just, a text response. And so, it's not them streaming on camera. I'm just basically here to, analyze the responses that the Star crew has put out. Marika Zanya is like, I don't know if Star's tapestry changed after she and Marco cleaved her from uni. So, Dark Penguin YT. There's actually the Star Crew responded to a lot of fan questions. You can go check out the AMA in the link in the description to see for yourself. But they did respond to things like, they said that the laser puppies are still alive, and also there's so many questions to summarize, and how they did say that Starco has been planned from the beginning, and they've had ideas for episodes like they showed Mr. Diaz's job, and how Miss Skolnick goes on a date with this orange monster. I'm not sure if they're referring to Helios or that sort of a thing. And Daron Nefcy has said that she's been on a break for, on a long summer break for now, and that Star has basically been in development since 2007. But yeah, they answered quite a few questions. So Dark Penguin YT, I highly recommend, if you want to see all of them, please go check out the AMA itself. I'll get into a couple more questions here, but yeah, like I was saying earlier, the point of this is I am responding to the AMA and responding to the answers that the Star Crew has given out. The AMA is not in my stream itself because of privacy reasons and that sort of a thing. So yeah. So Adam responded to a couple of questions. Hannah Purdy says, "Yay, I'm glad that the laser puppies are alive." And yeah, something they didn't really respond to, Darkling and Mighty, anything about a return movie season 5. Daron Nefcy basically said she can't confirm anything right now because it's up to the people at Disney if they want to proceed with Star in the future. She did say she's open to doing more Star down the line, but it's completely up to Disney, because they're the powers that be. I personally would like to see them do it, maybe like a Star vs. the Forces of Evil sequel series or a TV movie, much like what Nickelodeon, much like Nickelodeon is coming out with like the Rocko's Modern Life movie and the Invader Zim movie. So, and they also talked a bit about Valentina Ruiz's petition and saying that, Daron especially sounds pretty supportive of it. I signed the petition myself, mainly just out of more optimism rather than demand. Like I said, I really want to see them make like a Star TV movie or a sequel series in the future. But of course, that's up to Disney to call Daron and say, hey, can you come back and make like a Star sequel series and that sort of thing. But I do respect that she's taking a break like right now. I understand that it must be really hard to not only just make a series but also one with such a vocal fan base. So yeah, I totally respect that. But anyway, getting back to the AMA itself, Adam answered a couple questions. So somebody asked, what's Marco doing in his future? And Adam said, quote, hi, hopefully supporting Star in whatever she's doing, as well as still using those butt-kicking skills he developed in the Never Zone. So it would be really awesome if Star and Marco are still having adventures, and they're exploring how, this Earth and Muni getting cleaved together, what's changed in this new world, and maybe coming up with new ways to travel to other dimensions, like the tavern at the end of the multiverse and the Goblin Dog dimension, as well as seeing Kelly again. So I'm very interested to see what they would be doing. And I'd like to think that and Adam mentioned this in an interview that I'm sure they're also spending time with Mariposa and Meteora. And, maybe they have days where they babysit them. So I think that would be really awesome. So, and the question is, next question is, quote, why is asking why Toffee wanted his finger back so badly. And Adam said, quote, he's supposed to regenerate. Losing his finger was the one thing that proved he was mortal. It drove him crazy, so he needed it back. Kimberly Nieto says, I sent a question to Adam and never replied, probably because a lot of peeps are asking questions. And I'm really sorry to hear that your question didn't get answered, Kimberly. What was the question you wanted to ask him? And yeah, so I guess you could say it kind of gets into like Toffee's character in terms of like when he finds that, he can't regenerate his finger. It's kind of like he's fighting this idea that he really is, mortal. Like, most of the time he's able to regenerate, like, if he gets his arm chopped off or that sort of a thing. But, when Moon cuts off his finger using, that spell that Eclipsa taught her, he finds that, there's technically a way where somebody could possibly, like, kill me or permanently hurt me. So that's actually really interesting. That might actually be getting into, like, Toffee's insecurities as a character. I think that's really interesting. Really, Adam? Like, somebody asked if Star Marco had a child, what would the kid's name be? And he says, quote, Adam McArthur. And really, Adam? Jesus Christ. And somebody in the AMA responded with, but if it was a girl, would the kid be named Eden or Daron? And I know, at the Toyzilla event, Adam talked a bit about how he would like to see, what Star Marco are doing a few years down the line, and the possibility that maybe there's another Marco Jr. running around. I think he was referring to maybe if Star and Marco, when they grow up, maybe they can get married and name if they have a son, they name the son Marco Jr. So, yeah, I mean, I actually think that would actually be really nice. So yeah, and for the people joining the chat, once again, I'm not including the AMA in the stream itself because, you know, privacy reasons and that sort of a thing. So if you want to go check out the AMA, it is linked down below in the description. The purpose of my live stream is to respond to the questions, respond to the answers from the Star Crew. That's why I'm here on camera. So yeah, so if you want to go check out the AMA, it is down below in the description. For the people that are currently in the chat, if you have any thoughts on Star or any questions that you would like to ask me, you know, please let me know in the live chat. I really enjoy, you know, coming on here and streaming with you. Ooh, okay, so Adam responded to a few questions here. So let's see. So somebody said, since 1 minute is equal to 2 years in Heku's dimension, which time there runs at more than a million times faster, does this mean she can be nearly as old as Colossus, right? So the person is asking that because there's such a big time jump. You know, like how the person was saying that 1 minute is equal to 2 years in Heku's dimension. The person was asking if it's possible that Hecapu might be just as old as Colossus, and Adam said yes. And I don't really think there needs to be much more said beyond that. I mean, you know, that's how, you know, time works in Hecapu's dimension. And somebody asked, Brunzetta is like a goddess of thunder. She can teleport, use power of lightning. Is Hecapu or the Magic High Commission aware of her existence? She's a really powerful being with magical like powers. And Adam said that apparently the Magic High Commission didn't know about Hecapu, which is kind of weird. It's just, you would think that, you know, because they have such a strong hold on magic in the universe, you would think they would know about Brunzetta, but I guess they don't. At least that's what Adam said. Okay, that's kind of weird. Are all of her power, and then they asked him, are all of her powers gone with magic? Does this mean that she will die like Mother Gothel Rapunzel? And I don't know what this person is asking. They're saying, you know, are all of her powers gone with magic? Who is her? Are they referring to Star? I hope, you know, it's not, you know, it doesn't, you know, regard Star. That would be really scary. I don't know, personally. Somebody asked, where did they get the casting? And Adam says, quote, Disney has a great casting team. And, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Yeah. Yeah, I know it's not going to be possible to go through, like, every single question, but, you know, I want to stay on here just as long as you're all, you know, invested in the stream. And somebody asked the crew what they each think Starfan 13's real name is, and Adam says, quote, Daron says Amanda Jacobs. I say Deborah Perla, which I don't know if that's a reference to something or something like that. But okay, apparently they can't decide on a name for Starfan 13. Interesting response from Aaron Hammersley here. Somebody asked, somebody said they loved how Marco isn't traditionally masculine, and that having, him be emotional and caring was really refreshing. And Aaron Hammersley says, quote, I think Daron was surrounded by lots of Marcos on the production. So I'm guessing what Aaron is referring to is because we mainly see Marco as this, like, really insecure character that really wants to do, like, more with his life, and through his experiences with Star, he's getting a chance at being at that. So I think what makes Marco really cool is that, he has some really good character development, and that he's really relatable in that sense. I talked a bit about this in my the interview I did with Steven on his YouTube channel, and I said that I like that Marco has had to he's had to develop, and I liken like my journalism career to how, like, Marco, he like out of nowhere, he was taken into Hekapu's dimension, and he had to hunt down all these clones. So very just from that really sudden event, he had to learn to get stronger and develop, like, sword fighting skills in order to catch all the Hekapu clones. So yeah, I think that was a really cool thing. And I think it also shows that the Star crew wanted to put in a lot of their own, like, sort of like insecurities, and, take a lot of inspiration from themselves to make Marco a much more relatable and a more, like, complex and, like, character that really develops over time, rather than him just being, like, future buff Marco from the get-go. So I definitely think that's what makes Marco a really interesting character. Okay, so we're coming across a fan theory here. And my question is about the second season. I don't really think I understand the question. Moving on to this. I noticed somebody was saying that they can't find the AMA. The AMA itself, is linked in the description of this video. But the AMA is basically just, responding to a post that announced that, hey, a Star AMA featuring much of the Star crew is happening. So that's what's going on. And somebody was saying, why did Toffee call Marco a disappointment in Storm the Castle? And Adam says he thought Marco would be more of an adversary. So I guess Toffee was hoping that Marco would have been a much more challenging opponent, which is already really tricky because Toffee's already a really tricky character to kind of fight. Because, Marco was basically, like, attached to this chair using these kind of shackles. And when Toffee tried to let him go, Marco tried to throw a punch at Toffee, but he missed. So I think that's why. And then, was Monster Arm bluffing that Marco would never get rid of it, as we didn't see it ever again in the series? So they were asking if, like, Monster Arm was just... Because in the Monster Arm episode, when Monster Arm was going away, he was like, you could cure the illness, but you'll never get rid of the virus. And this person was wondering if, like, Monster Arm was just saying that to scare Marco, or just to sound, tough, as, metaphorically speaking, his ship was going down, sinking. I used the word ship in Star vs. the Forces of Evil. And Marco was saying, the Monster Arm is still dormant in Marco. He better make sure his immune system stays strong. Ooh, boy. I'm wondering if this means... Does this mean if Marco gets sick, like if he catches a cold or the flu, does this mean if he has a weakened immune system and he can't fight and he's weakened, there's a possibility that Monster Arm could come back? I think that's kind of interesting. Another question is if Adam would do some sort of continuation of the series if he got the chance. And of course, Adam says yes. Yeah. And the person was asking who was telling Marco that the Blood Moon is the Night of Lovers in season 1. And Adam said, of course, that was the voice of Alphonse, Eclipse's dad, and the sea captain in the painting. And yeah, which makes total sense because Daron Nefcy herself has even said that, oh yeah, that is definitely the sea captain. And in the Magic Book of Spells, we learned that this captain is named Alphonse, and he actually has connections to the Butterfly family. So, and as I said in my Blood Moon Ball anniversary stream, I said that, losing my train of thought here, that honestly, it took me a couple watches for that scene to sink in. But on the second or third watch, I remember when I got to the scene when, Alphonse was telling, oh, Marco, blood moon tonight, the moon of lovers. After the second or third watch, I was like, ooh, is it possible that Star and Marco love each other? Or that Marco has feelings for Star? And I got really excited hearing that. So, yeah, very interesting experience. It took me a few watches to really get into the Blood Moon Ball episode. Yeah. So, once again, if you have any thoughts on the AMA or if you have any questions for me, please be sure to let me know in the live chat right here. I responded to quite a few questions. So I'm still going through just in case if there's a question that I'm not seeing that is put in the AMA, please be sure to let me know. Again, I know that I can't respond to every single question because, I might not be able to catch them all. I noticed that some people are using like a bold font. I'm guessing like they're hoping that it means that Daron and her crew will see it. Will have a better chance of seeing. Yeah. But yeah. I will say, before I continue with questions, and like I said, don't be shy to let me know some of your own questions in the live discussion. If you ever get the chance to meet Daron Nefcy or any of the Star crew, take advantage of it. I know there's a lot of people. I know I'm very lucky. I've gotten to meet, the Star crew, quite a few times, especially over the course of me watching the series. But I know, you all, hey, I'm still trying to figure out how to pronounce your name. Is it Javi or Javi? Like, do I pronounce the J or not? I know you said I didn't ask them anything, but it's still good to see you. You didn't ask them anything. Did you not get the chance? Because I know you would have, it would have been cool. So yeah, but it's great to see you once again. Just let me know. I know how to know your name, but was there many Starco questions? In terms of Starco questions, so without the J, so is it Javi? Like, am I pronouncing it right? Javi or Avi? And yeah, hello there. I would say one of the main Starco questions was somebody asked, was Starco planned from the beginning? And Daron basically said that it was planned from the beginning, like she had it in mind. Although I think she said she didn't expect, Starco to blow up so much. So, okay, so Hobby, if I'm pronouncing right. Because I know you said that your name is short for Javier, so I just wanted to make sure that I'm pronouncing it right. Yeah, and Daron said, in regards to Starco, I know somebody asked why did Star end with just Star Marco? Like, why did they just finally get together at the very end of the series? And Daron said she wanted to focus on make them feel like legit teenagers, like making it feel like more of a realistic relationship, which I give her a lot of credit for. Although the inner shipper in me is like, oh, but I want to see them end with Star Marco dancing like at the end of Beauty and the Beast or Sleeping Beauty, or something ending on like Star ending with like a pop romance song. You know how like especially in the 90s Disney movies they would end with like a pop version of like a song from the movie, like Elton John's Can You Feel the Love Tonight, or that Beauty and the Beast duet with Celine Dion and I think you pronounce his name Peebo Bryson, like something like that. I thought that would have been amazing. I also think it would have been amazing if I could have filmed a Star Marco music video where I projected Starco scenes on like the buildings out in Long Beach, but I'm guessing that's not gonna happen anytime soon. I'm just like, yo, Mayor Robert Garcia, I need you to do me a favor. So, but yeah, but Javi, if you did get a chance to be part of the AMA, what question would you ask? Move my webcam cable out of the way. I don't know if it'll really work though. No. Nope. Not really. Alright. There we go. So, what did obviously the problem with the show is the shipping itself. Tom Star, Kelly Co, those were pointless to make Starco stronger. The Kelco I could understand because like I also thought it was kind of pointless. I would have been open to the idea of Star and Mark, not Star and Marco. I mean, Star and Kelly becoming closer friends as they, both, kind of sympathize with each other over getting over the relationships they're already in. But yeah, in terms of them getting into a sort of romance, I thought that was really pointless. In terms of Tom Star, though, I get why some fans are like, ugh, Star only got back with Tom because she's scared of her own feelings. But I honestly think that's part of, what makes, Star Marco's relationship more tangible, even if it's kind of a sort of toxic sort of way, but I understand it more from like a dramatic sort of perspective. So, I don't know, if it like made Star go stronger or anything like that. I think it was just a case of Star, was just, mentally she was running around being scared and wasn't sure, if her feelings were legitimate, and how she was really worried how Marco would feel about her own feelings, just as much as he was also really insecure about telling Star about how she felt. I think that's a part that makes, Starco really tangible, hobby. But yeah. Hmm. I think I'll stick around for a little bit just in case people from are just coming back from the AMA and they wanted to, share their thoughts on things. Yeah. Yeah. Nice thing about checking out the AMA using my iPad is that it doesn't use that, because I'm doing that, I'm not using, you know, any of my CPU or RAM to process the Reddit AMA stream on my computer, because I'm doing that on a separate device. So, yeah, that's how I get around that and make sure that the CPU, OBS doesn't use as much CPU. But at least from like what it seems like, it's not using as much CPU as my MacBook Pro. So I definitely think it's really great. So yeah, I actually stepped out for a second just to make sure that the stream is running smoothly on YouTube. And did Hobby ask another question? People, what did you say, Hobby? People should ask Daron like, what's her favorite character or her future view on Earthny. I didn't see somebody ask, or at least she didn't respond to a question asking what's her favorite character. In terms of like the future view of Earthny, she basically said that the ending of the show is really open to interpretation. I know that she said that somebody said that because magic is gone, now Miss Skolnick has turned back into a human, but the Star Crew is saying that Marco still has the monster arm within him, and that the laser puppies, Daron herself said that the laser puppies are still alive. So, but I think a lot of it is really open to fan interpretation. There's some things that I don't think should be left up to fan interpretation, like how did that portal under Brita's Tacos get there, or how are Star and Mark go? How are they going to travel to other dimensions now? There's things like that that are just too big questions that I don't think that can be just left to fan interpretation. Yeah. And Hobby, you said season 5 questions are just unnecessary in my opinion. I think like people have the right to ask about season 5. It's just that so many people are like asking about. I also heard people are getting really toxic towards that new Disney Channel show Amphibia, and they're saying things like, "Oh, Amphibia sucks. I just want more Star vs. the Forces of Evil." And I think that's just utter BS and just really disrespectful to the people that work on Amphibia. Like, it's like, yes, pursue pursue, you can still, ask for a season 5, but don't shit on other shows in the process. I've seen a couple of Amphibia episodes myself, and I like the show so far, and from what I hear, it gets even better. Like I've heard some people say that it becomes as nerve-wracking as Star. Obviously, Mina's plans is an interesting question, and I'm still really concerned about Mina. Like, what is she gonna do now? Since like, it's not even like the finale for Avatar: The Last Airbender, where in that finale, the spoilers if you haven't seen that show, Ozai gets thrown in prison. They don't even do that with Mina. She's like, she goes off, and even a couple humans follow her. So it's just like, what is she up to now? Is she gonna come up with like another evil plan? I mean, yeah, she doesn't have magic, but what's to stop her from making some kind of like, terrorist group to like go after monsters or that sort of a thing? Notice the CPU numbers on OBS have been going up. Oh, they're going back down, so hopefully it won't be too bad. And Hobby is saying some people can't move on from Star because it's very popular, and Starco is very important to people's life. And I'm sympathetic to a degree, just in terms of I know it's really hard and it's sad to see Star end. I mean, for me, it's definitely, the show has been a big part of my life. It's a huge part of what inspired me to launch my YouTube channel. And Daron just tweeted that the AMA is officially done. Let me actually just respond to them. But yeah, my honest advice for people that have a really hard time moving on from Star is, and I know, like, for some people it's just really like hard to go outside their comfort zone, just in terms of anything, like buying a laptop from a company they're not used to, or buying a new car from a company they never tried. Like trying to tell, like, I know, like it's not every Star fan. I think it's like a very small amount of them. It's like telling a person who's mainly used to buying like Subarus, like, it's like telling that person, have you considered buying a Toyota Camry? No, I like my Subaru Impreza. No, I can't move on. If you're into cars, I think you know what I'm talking about. But my honest advice is start checking out other shows, especially, check out other shows like Amphibia, or get caught up on Steven Universe, or start watching Infinity Train. Cartoon Network released the first episode of Infinity Train on their website. Go right ahead. Go check them out. Hubby, is there any important questions you found out? I found out? You mean, like, it's all in the AMA, Hobby. You can go check it out. I have it linked below. Like, people were asking questions about things like Starco, the fate of the laser puppies. I know somebody asked, why did Meteora turn back into a baby? And Daron basically said that what happened was Eclipsa used the spell to try to turn back Meteora into a baby. She was concerned that it wasn't going to work, but of course it did in the end. So yeah, if you want to go see the question, the AMA yourself, it's linked down below in the description. Like, I'm mainly here to live stream my thoughts on the answers that the Star Crew has given. I don't know why. Are people just having a really hard time accessing the AMA? Like, I know Reddit is kind of tricky. Like, I'm a person that doesn't like to use Reddit all that much, mainly because I've been told by my friend Steven that Reddit could get really spoilery. So, yeah, if you want to go see the questions yourself, go right ahead. The AMA is linked down below in the description. I didn't want to include it in the stream here for, like, privacy reasons. That's also why I'm mainly paraphrasing the questions themselves. But yeah, if you want to go check it out, check out the AMA itself. It's linked down below in the description. Yeah, but even though the AMA is done, I'll still stick around and just to answer a few more questions. Let's see if they added some more questions. Oh, okay, this is kind of interesting. Somebody's asking, did Daron's experience... did Daron's experiences in school affect, how the story was, the show itself, and yeah, and Marco got his GED. I think that's GED is his high school equivalency diploma. Yeah, his high school equivalency certificate. I think Marco, he's definitely a smart kid, but and Daron says, quote, yeah, I would say some of my high school experiences made it in. The GED one for sure. I actually didn't graduate high school. I was getting badly bullied, so I took the GED test and left early. Best decision I ever made. And I give, Daron a lot of credit. It's so, and it definitely shows that, even if, you were in school and got bullied, down the line, especially there will be people out there who appreciate your talent. So I think that's definitely, I'm really glad that Daron was able to, overcome all that crap that she had to go through in high school. It's really terrible though, because like I remember like my personal high school experiences. I didn't get like bullied in high school, but it was a really like competitive place because I went to a school where there were a lot of like, academic high flyers, and they were kind of promoting without necessarily promoting how, a real job is things like, becoming a doctor or a business person and that sort of a thing. And it was just a, really kind of competitive, really intense. Like I've talked about before, like I was honestly, I was borderline depressed when I was, in high school. And I was I know I still have trouble managing, my emotions sometimes, but back in high school it was even worse because I was struggling. My parents were like, they're the kind of parents who are like, if you get an A-, still gonna be ticked off at you because it's not an A+. And actually, I shouldn't say that. I know my dad was more more lenient on like my grades. As long as I wasn't getting like C's, he was okay. But my mom especially, I would come home and she's the kind of person who would be like, I got a 91% on my test, and she'd be like, how come you didn't get 100? And that sort of a thing. So yeah, God, I remember my math classes. I know the stereotype is, oh, Asian kids are good at math. I suck at math. Like, it was honestly to the point where I thought that because I was not good at math, I thought that I was, that meant that, I was a failure as a person, So, but to a degree I could relate to that. But high school at the same time, I had some really good times in high school too, like my high school cross-country team, for instance. In fact, that was how me and Steven met. And we were both on the same high school cross-country team. We weren't very good runners, but at least for me, I really liked the people that I got to meet there. Some of whom, you even see on this channel to this day. And high school was also the place where I met Gabby. It was the place where I took AP English literature, which helped me get into things like a movie criticism and analyze shows. So you could thank my AP Lit class for me being able to review all the Star vs. the Forces of Evil episodes that I've checked out. So I guess it's a mixed blessing. I'm overall glad I went to high school, but needless to say, it had its really like stressful. I even heard there was like some really shady people who went to that school behind the scenes. I mean, if I were to rank like my school experience, I would say elementary school was okay. Middle school was the best for me because that was where I started getting into things like journalism and computers. High school was kind of a mixed blessing, and college just had its stressful times in the end, and it's partly why I decided to launch this YouTube channel. But at the same time, I had a really good time being a photojournalist, and through my journalism classes, that was how I got into, public relations, and through that was how I was able to start this YouTube channel. Yeah. Cool thing about the Star fandom, by the way, is that I actually found out that one of my public relations professor, she's also into Star vs. the Forces of Evil, and she says that she watches the show with her kid. And yeah, I also found out that my coworker, the other day, when I went to work, my coworker saw that, like, on my laptop, I have the logo that my sister designed, right on the top of my laptop, and she was like, Marco! Like, she instantly recognized Marco. So there's definitely Star fans out there, both online and in the real world. Getting back to what you were saying, Hobby, you were saying Adam McArthur is more connected to the fans than Daron, and that you also said Daron is into life, not just cartoons. Of course Daron is into life. She really enjoys things like traveling and going on hiking. I mean, I wish I could travel just as much. I know she recently went to Italy. And, I would like to go to various parts of Italy myself, especially places like Cortina d'Ampezzo, Milan. Florence also looks really amazing, and also Torino. I'd also want to stop by Rome, because I kind of have this dream of being able to visit every Olympic city, which may be really difficult, especially going to places like, Sochi and Moscow in Russia, but I would certainly like to go. I also had a friend who was recently in Sarajevo in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and I was like, wow, that looks really cool. I mean, granted, in Sarajevo, a lot of the Olympic courses are abandoned. Some got destroyed because of the Bosnian War, but I'd still like to travel there, and I've heard that the Balkans in general, even though it's still kind of dysfunctional, for the most part, the people there are chill nowadays. But, I definitely had this dream. The only Olympic cities I only managed to visit were Los Angeles, because I lived fairly close, like an hour or so away from Los Angeles, and also Vancouver. Vancouver in Canada was definitely a really fun time. I really like to, go up there and visit places like Calgary, Banff, and Montreal. So, I do talk to, you might know the animator Cheyenne Curtis. I talk to her occasionally on Twitter. She said that she's from Montreal, so maybe one of these days I could, she could help me out. Somebody asked Darren to sleep over her questions, and she said, what is your favorite color? And Darren said blue, and she thought that Stars brownies were terrible, and she has a crush on Bobby Miller, so she's at least brave enough to answer all those questions. Yeah. Oh, and a couple other things. Holly said, "Have you ever met any online Star fans?" Of course. Like, Javi, don't you consider yourself an online Star fan? I mean, I met various people that, like. Should I even try naming the ones that I know? I feel like if I tried, I would forget. But people like Cuba, Valentina Ruiz, Heather Kipp, Vivi. So, I mean, I don't really want to get into trying to name them all, because then I would feel like I'd be forgetting, people like Nelly, and just amazing people like them, just in general. Jeffrey Hyde. You see what it's doing to me? I feel like I'd forget, all the amazing Star fans that I would meet. And yeah, and that, and also, even to this day, a lot of the followers that I get on, especially Twitter and to an extent YouTube, are Star fans themselves. So I think that's, really amazing. And I think it shows that even though Star is over, the fan base is definitely not going to die. Like, especially not in the foreseeable future. I mean, look at shows like the original Powerpuff Girls, Ed, Edd and Eddy, and shows like that. Those have been off the air for years. I mean, I know there was that awful Powerpuff Girls reboot. But no, it's not going away anytime soon, if ever. Certainly not in the foreseeable future. So I think that's really amazing. And it shows that the Star fan base is dedicated, and I hope someday Disney will come to terms with the fact that there is a very vocal Star fan base, and they'll consider things like maybe doing something like a Star reboot series, or something like a Star sequel series, or a TV movie. So, I don't know, do you mean something else, Hobby, when you ask that question? Yeah, Hobby, you said that Galaxy, excuse him, Gravity Falls fan base is still active too. Yeah, it definitely is. Like, I'm still a Gravity Falls fan myself. I've considered cosplaying Dipper many times before. Uh, you mean in person? Oh yes, I've met many Star fans in person. Like I've met Valentina in person. I've met Heather, Vivi. Um, I've also met Jeffrey Hyde, and also know that Nightmare Alley, Arlene. I've definitely met my share of the Star fans I know from online. I've definitely met several in person, and yeah, 99% of them are really truly amazing people. Like I consider Valentina a good friend of mine, for instance. Something that I wanted to bring up is that I know that some of my relatives don't like how I call my channel Blood Moon Bobby because they think the word blood sounds scary and violent. I mean, I think like 99% of Star fans know that the reason why it's called that way is because like I am a fan of the Blood Moon Ball and I'm a fan of Starco. And something interesting I've learned from, I guess, vexology is that a lot of countries often use the color red to symbolize not that they're pro-violence, but it's to honor like people who've died to fight for the freedom of that country, and that sort of thing. I mean, Geography Now, they have this thing. The YouTube channel Geography Now has this thing where a lot of the times where they come across red, especially if it officially symbolizes like sacrifice, he does that thing where they play an animation and they sing the song that the red stands for "Blood of those who fight for the freedom," and that sort of a thing. I mean, I use the color red. I explained this in a tweet that I use the color red to symbolize like my passion for the subjects that I talk about. On top of the fact that red is my favorite color, in contrast to Daron, and also red as a person who's I'm half Taiwanese myself. My mom has told me that one of the reasons that she likes the fact that I use red as I say red is my favorite color is because red is considered like a lucky color in Chinese culture, and yeah, and then also I think the color red really stands out in the world of Star vs. The Forces of Evil because the Blood Moon Ball is obviously a really crucial part to that to the show, but it's red is also it's not really a color used aside from Marco's hoodie, but it's not really a color used all that much in the world of Star. Star is a show that mainly all likes to use colors like blue, green, lots of blue, green, yellow, pink, and to a certain extent orange. So I think because red is a significant color, but we don't see that all that much. That's another reason why I like to use that in my branding. And I also use the color white to symbolize, peace between the ships. And I explained in my in a tweet that I noticed that a lot of like neutral and peaceful countries like to use red and white in their flags. You look at countries like Denmark, Japan, Switzerland, and I'm part Japanese also. Denmark, Japan, Switzerland, and Austria, those are all either really neutral or really peaceful countries, and they use a lot of red and white. So it's just like, that's part of the inspiration of why I like to use that in my branding. And also, funny enough, notice a lot of companies also like to use red and white in their branding as well. Like Nintendo uses those colors, Canon, Pentax, Xerox, and that sort of a thing. So yeah, and also Target. Let's not forget Target. So yeah, I don't know. I thought that was just kind of an interesting quirk for me to bring up. Okay, so still waiting to see if people are going to show up. I'll keep the stream going for a little while longer. In terms of other videos that I'm planning to work on, I do want to make a video on... I heard that the YouTube app for the 3DS is going to be discontinued really soon. The thing about that, though, is I know I said in my previous videos that I'm hopeful that the revised Switch and the Nintendo Switch Lite are going to be good. I'd be more cautious. I will say it is a legitimate concern for people that are still playing games on the Nintendo 3DS and they're really not sure about upgrading. I do think it's a legitimate concern because it's not that everybody who has a Switch has Joy-Con drift issues. Like, most of my friends don't, but me and one of my friends do. It's just that the problem is if you pick a Switch up, it might be a roll of the dice. So what I'd recommend is if you're thinking of getting a Switch Lite or a revised Switch, the one with the better battery life, I'd say at least hold off until reviews start coming out for them. I'd honestly wait even longer because my concern is what happens if both the Switch Lite and the revised Switch, they come out and their battery lives are... I mean, not the battery... I mean, Joy-Cons, they work okay at launch, but say 4 months down the line, they start having drift issues. So I really hope Nintendo resolves that. I'd like to think that it's of concern to them because I don't think they want to... And because like I know it's in Nintendo's, it's not in their best interest to keep that whole we'll repair Joy-Cons for free. They just keep going forever. Not that I don't support it. I'd like to think it's just that Nintendo's obviously a company and they want to make money. So I hope that the Switch Lite and the revised Switch are much more durable and that sort of a thing. I'm personally waiting for the Switch Pro as a person who's had my Switch since launch, or at least I want to see if Nintendo will come out with a Switch Pro. But I could understand that as being a legitimate concern for 3DS fans. And Hobby is saying Switch is very expensive. Unless you count the Switch Lite, which is going to be $200, but that's still technically more money than the Nintendo 2DS, which is $80. And but you're saying, Javi, that the reason is because the games are $60, and yeah, that's another thing too. Is that especially when they're new games, they cost $60, just like they did for the Wii U. So I'll be working on a video on that. And the other thing I wanted to do an update video on the Butch Hartman's Oaxis service. I steered away from that topic for a while because I didn't want to turn my YouTube channel into the Oaxis hate channel or that sort of thing. But it's mainly because now Butch Hartman has been putting out a lot of updates lately, which I'm still not really convinced about, Oaxis. Like, he's mainly been putting out updates saying, I've been meeting with animators and investors. But I'd really like to see, even if if they can't like say, you know, oh, Access is launching today with all these new shows. Even if they can't, I would like to still see them announce that they at least have like either projects in development or if shows are going over to Access. You know, just like how the other day Disney Television Animation announced that they greenlit The Curse of Molly McGee. It's not that the show is coming out anytime soon. It's that they're just saying, hey, the show is in development and we think you are all going to like that. Yeah, because I remember that, like, one of my very supportive YouTube subscribers mentioned that Butch has some shows in development, like that show Imagine Nathan, which, you know, I forgot to mention in the O Access video I made last year. So, you know, I want to talk about that. And that's just the thing. It's just like, if you go to the O Access Facebook page, you'll see that, you know, he's like, it's loaded with, like, you know, all these updates and that sort of thing. But if you go to the website, there really isn't that many. Like, okay, the website has a facelift, and they show off the app, but they don't really talk much about, oh, you know, what specific shows are going to be on the service. It's almost like, oh, if you want to hear about this, you have to follow Butch on all these services, because he's not going to tell you. You know, so I just find that to be really shady. It's almost like he's only going to tell his absolute most diehard of followers, you know, what's up. You know, what I want to see Butch do is, I wish he kind of took an approach, kind of like, you know, what I mentioned, Disney Television Animation. But it's like if Apple announced a new iPhone and they're like, oh, we're not going to release a new press release. We're going to spread out the information. Like, some of them you'll find on our Facebook page, some you'll find on our website, and some you'll find on our YouTube channel. It's like, at least give like some kind of, not that you have to give everything away, but, you know, be more consistent on your platforms and that sort of thing. Because you can't build legitimacy for your platform when you're just posting updates all over the place and making it really difficult to follow. And I think that's what's making it really difficult for a lot of people to talk about O Access, because you look at the website and it's like, oh, not too much going on other than the facelift, but it's like you have to go to the Facebook page to really see what the hell is going on. So, I mean, I don't know when I'll get that video out. I do want to talk about, I do want to make at least another O Access video, because there are significant updates to talk about. Not the most convincing, but there's more details beyond what I did in the 3 O Access videos I made last year. And Hobby says, Butch is a legend in the animation industry, but he can be cocky at times. And yeah, that's honestly the thing. It's not that I wish bad on him, or I even thought that, but yeah, I mean, there's no denying that Butch is you know, there's a lot of credit for creating shows like Fairly Odd Parents and Danny Phantom. I'm especially a fan of Danny Phantom. And he says, we enjoy his shows, but he needs to accept the fact if it's not working, don't do it. But the hate for him is just a waste of time. And I think what's happening is that he's overestimating his fame, you know. Like, it's almost like he's thinking, yeah, it's going to be a challenge for O Access to launch, but, you know, I still have a fan base from Fairly Odd Parents and Danny Phantom, even if, you know, a lot of people don't like some of the later Fairly Odd Parents episodes, which isn't a bad thing, I will say. Like, you know, I will say it's a kind of thing where you could turn negative PR into a good one, but it's just, I kind of think he's letting his egotism get the best of him, you know? And, like, I know he's saying that, you know, he's launching, you know, he's working, one of the projects he's working on is an O Access game show. But yeah, if you go to his YouTube channel, you know, he says, quote, yes, I'm the real guy. I created your childhood, aka Fairly Odd Parents, Danny Phantom, Tough Puppy, and now the Noog Network and Bunsen is a Beast. It's just like, can anybody really claim to create your childhood? Like, I don't even think you could say, like, Walt Disney created your childhood, especially if you watch, like, a lot of shows and movies from other companies. Like, I can't credit, like, it's even hard for me to come up with, like, a complete list of people who made my childhood, you know? You know, because if I tried listing people who influenced my childhood, I would have to say, okay, I'll start with Arlene Klasky, Gabor Chupo, I think I'm pronouncing his name right, Dr. Seuss, Walt Disney, the guy who created the Madeline books, Nick Park, Hayao Miyazaki. And it's just really hard for me to like come up with a full list. And you know, Hobby's saying he puts his Christian faith on all access too. And you know, I'm not one of those people who thinks that like, oh, religion is bad or Christianity is bad, because like I have friends like, you know, who are, you know, Christian and are really, you know, really chill people. Like my friend Steven, I remember when we graduated, we went out with his friends from church, and they were super like cool people. They were super likable people. I think even one of his friends asked me, oh, would you like to come meet us at our church? And it meant it in a friendly way. But it's just the way Butch does it is super alienating for like because you know, if you watch like his live streams, you know, his family is constantly saying is, thank God for this, God wanted us to make Oaxis, and you know, we're not gonna let criticism get at us and that sort of thing. It's just not, you know, it's not him being like, well, you know, I think just the way he goes about it, and how, you know, he's not very nice towards criticism is really alienating. And I remember, I think his wife was like, we're going to have an All Access Awards and that sort of thing. It's just, yeah. And I think, yeah, it's just like, I think, you know, it's like they have too much faith in this service. No pun intended. So, yeah. So, you know, not that I wanted to go off on a tangent, but those are basically two of the videos that I'm, you know, really working on, or, you know, want to start working on now. Things like making an updated Nintendo a video and that sort of thing. And Hobby said, especially he didn't credit his crew or anything but him. Are you talking about, I think there was a case where, like, Butch apparently, like, credited himself and God, like, at some kind of dinner or something like that, or I don't know. I don't remember it too well. But is that what you're talking about, Avi? So, you know, once again, for probably the last time, if you all have any questions regarding Star vs. the Force of Evil, or my thoughts on the AMA, or if you have any questions for me on the topics that I talk about, you know, please let me know. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, the streaming services I'm thinking of giving a chance are things like Disney Plus. I may give HBO Max a shot. What else am I thinking? Because I'm mainly going to check out All Access just for the sake of, because I've been talking about it, and admittedly it is my first Butch Hartman All Access video is my most popular video I've done for this YouTube channel. So for the sake of all this, I will be checking it out when/if it does come out. I said before, I think I'm at worst, All Access will just be a rebrand of the Noog Network, because what I think is going to happen is, Hobby, you're saying you're going to take off. I'll see you later. It's really nice to have you. When I think, and you said you're going out with family, I hope you have a good time with them, and because... Because what I think is going to happen is, let's say All Access does crumble. I'm not saying it is, but I'm just giving a what-if scenario. But let's say it does. What I think might happen is Butch won't admit that, crumbled, and he'll just rebrand Oaxis and be like, oh, and these other shows that I've talked about before, we'll put them on there, but it's not going to be the streaming service that I'd hope for. And that's just a what if example. But anyway, let's actually get back to Star. How do you pronounce your name? Is it Chayo, Caesar, Marquez? Do you believe that that's still a chance we still see a Star official Star game in 3D? I mean, I'd like to think that. I mean, I'm not really sure if Disney's gonna do it, but I have entertained this idea of what like it would be awesome if they ever made a Star vs. the Forces of Evil game in the style of like a Mario game, like something like Super Mario 3D Land. Like, wouldn't that be awesome? If Like, what if you had this ability of being able to play as characters like Star, Marco, Tom, Kelly, Eclipsa, River, or Moon? Like in a Mario Star where they're going around using their respective, weapons to take down monsters, and you have to complete a course. Like, I guess you could say it's like a parody of Super Mario Brothers in a sense. I think that would honestly be really awesome if they did make something like that. It's just that the powers will be is stubborn AF. And Javi says, but yeah, again, I've been around this fan base since 2016. I do enjoy this fan base, but I do consider them as family. And yeah, we're we're for the most part a very friendly fan base. I mean, I think 2016 was the year I started getting into Star myself. I actually didn't watch it for like the first year because I haven't heard about it. Like I said many times before, I remember my friends Steven and Gabby brought up Star, but I was like, what is this show? And then when we decided to sit down and watch it, as soon as it started playing, I was like, where has this show been my entire life? This is awesome. So yeah, Hobby said, good or bad, Star fan base is very loyal, nice people. Sure, sometimes it's weird, but it's a good show and good fan base. Especially it needs Blu-ray, DVD, complete series box set. Which I hope they, Disney would consider doing that. And even if they don't, maybe something like the Shout Factory will come out with something. I think the Shout Factory did, like, the complete Gravity Falls series, if I'm correct. Let me actually double check that one on my iPad. So maybe if Disney doesn't want to do it, they'll just give it to somebody like the Shout Factory. Yeah. Because I know that my friends Steven asked for such a thing. Yeah, you could buy it on the Shout Factory's website. Yeah. Yeah. But I can't see, like, Disney doing a thing where they give Star over to Netflix. Because especially since Disney is coming out with Disney Plus, that's their competitors. So if Disney is going to make, like, a Star sequel series or a movie, they're probably just going to do it on the Disney Plus service. Like, I think they're doing that with Phineas and Ferb. Yeah. Yeah, I'll see you later, Hobby. Have a good one. So yeah, man, we've been streaming for over 3 hours now. So yeah, I think so far that the stream has been going really well on this upgraded computer. Right. So I'll keep this going for I'll give it a few more minutes just in case some more people come by. So I think at least for the foreseeable future, when I possibly can, I think I'll stick to doing live streams. I'll try to do them more often on this upgraded PC because it seems to handle OBS and YouTube much better than my laptop. Like, I've been rewatching my streams to try to get better at speaking and to also see, you know, what has made other past streams successful. I would like to do a thing where, like, if I could find my old router, I want to, like, plug it into, like, my, the upstairs part of my room to see if, like, if it could help out things. You know, so that I'll be able to plug, you know, instead of using Wi-Fi, I could plug, like, my laptop straight into, you know, Ethernet and go from there. All right, so I think I'm going to end things off here. It's been really fun. Once again, I hope it wasn't too confusing for you all. I wanted to do this live chat just to basically respond to the answers that the Star Crew is giving live in their AMA. So it's been a lot of fun chatting with you all once again, and I think I'll be doing much more of these streams from my upgraded PC as opposed to my laptop. If anything, it shows that, you know, doing the upgrades was absolutely worth it. So, yeah. So, then I think I'll do a video talking about the upgrades I did to this computer to make it more competent in the future. So, until next time, this has been Blood Moon Bobby, and thank you guys for watching.